welcome to tonight's show, which is actually a special edition on our INTA appearances. So,
hi, I'm happy to be here.
yes.
Thank you, and hello to all of your, watchers. I don't want to say just listeners, people who watch your podcast.
Yes, awesome. Now, just briefly, it was just sort of a short sort of snippet about the INTA and all this sort of thing, but if you could just tell the audience a little bit about yourself first and your work.
Okay, so I'm the Senior Assistant Minister and Executive Minister at Christ Universal Temple in Chicago, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also currently the Second Vice President for the Universal Foundation for Better Living, which is an organization that was started by the Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman, who's also the founder of Christ Universal Temple. I'm the host of Truth Transforms on Unity Online Radio. I've been doing that podcast now for almost 7 years. Actually, next month, it'll be 7 years. Let me see here. I've been a teacher in the Johnny Coleman Institute since 1997. I'm also on the faculty of the Johnny Coleman Theological Seminary. I'm a speaker. I travel. I speak in different places. I do some writing. I've had some articles in Science of Mind magazine, New Thought magazine, etc. And I'm known as being one of the, I use the label the hardcore metaphysician because I teach hardcore metaphysics.
I love your article.
Yeah, hardcore metaphysics. So I'm a person who just wants the message to get out in a real way. Now, I could go on about the different roles I cover because I have a lot of roles in a lot of different organizations, but mainly what I do primarily on a day-to-day basis is being the Senior Assistant Minister and Executive Minister at Christ Universal Temple.
Okay, cool. So, Gaylon, how did you find New Thought? Because you're so immersed in it and you're such a New Thought leader, and you're so passionate about it. So how did you find New Thought?
Well, it's kind of interesting how I found New Thought. My mom was an eclectic thinker. She read everything, and she came out of a background. My grandparents had more of a Pentecostal, as we would call it, sanctified background.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually played a tape of Les Brown, the motivational speaker, around Thanksgiving of '92. And she said, "Hey, would you play this on your stereo?" My room was next to the kitchen. Mm-hmm. So I played the tape for her while she was cooking. And I said, wow, I was about 20 years old. Mm-hmm. And the tape blew my mind. There's no other way for me to say it. Les Brown actually is an ordained minister for the Universal Foundation for Better Living, which is not well known. He just shifted into the motivational world, but he's a great brother, by the way. Yeah, so, in 92, when I heard the tape, the Les Brown sermon, it was titled The Courage to Live Your Dreams, Part 2, from August of 92. And he was doing an analogy of, now I understand, of doing somewhat of a metaphysical interpretation of Samson and Delilah.
Oh,
and,
okay.
Samson representing, the power of your potential, and Delilah representing the things that can keep you from living your potential or living your dream. Mm-hmm. It blew me away. It actually blew me away. It's still one of the best sermons I've ever heard. And what ended up happening was, I asked, did she have another tape? Because I listened to that for a while. Mm-hmm. And she had another tape by Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, who wrote Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, and which was the book that was created from the manuscript Napoleon Hill was writing before he passed away for African Americans.
Wow,
and
so cool. Yeah.
So that name of that lesson was, It Was There For You. And the idea behind it was, when you end this life, and you look and you're on the other side of life, God is going to tell you, it was there for you. How come I don't have this? How come I don't have that? How come this didn't happen? It was there for you.
Right.
And that was great. But then she let me hear a tape called God and Man by the Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman. And it literally was a life changer for me. And I listened to it. And when I got to the place of understanding that I needed to be there, I was like, okay, maybe I need to do this God thing and figure out what I really want to do with my life. I'm a young man, a good young man, handling my business, doing what I need to do, but really not clear about what I wanted to be as an adult. And I'm not saying I wanted to be a minister. That was far from my thought process. Any type of religious teacher, that was not even in the conversation.
Wow.
So I went to the church January 1993, age 20, and she wasn't there. she wasn't there that Sunday. And the speaker was really good, but it wasn't that voice I heard on the tape. And that's what I needed to hear. And so I came back the next week and it was the voice. And she said, sign up for classes. So I signed up for some classes.
Yeah.
And it was Basic Truth Principles, which is sort of like the primary first class for the Universal Foundation for Better Living. And what ended up happening out of that course was, it didn't start until February, but this is now, mid-January, early January. So I read the text, and because I'm a fast reader, very fast reader, and I ended up going to a party for a retirement party with my, then girlfriend, and for Tom Joyner, who's a popular radio DJ. He used to fly from Chicago to Dallas every day as a part of his travel, before he became syndicated. Right. He was, that's why they called him the fly jock. So he was retiring from Chicago, only going to New York, and he was going to do syndication.
Okay.
So I went to the party, but that day I had what I thought was a chest cold. So my grandmother told me to put some Vicks Vapor Rub on my chest. And so I put it on my chest and let it sit. And then when my pores closed, I went out to the party. And I didn't feel good at the party. When I came home, I told my mother that I couldn't breathe right. Oh. So to make a long story short, I ended up going to the hospital. And before I left, I grabbed my 2 books from my class because I didn't know how long I was going to be there. But at the time, I still wasn't getting how bad this was. By the time I actually got to the hospital, which was probably about the hospital I wanted to go to, because that's how it is in Chicago. I don't know about New York. There's some you go to, some you don't.
You want to go to the better one, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
By the time I got there, I was at death's door.
Oh.
Like I literally could barely breathe. They took me right in. They tested my lung capacity. They have something you're supposed to blow on.
Yes.
And I couldn't blow it a 1/4 inch.
Whoa.
And, so, I'm in total mode now. It's emergency mode. My mom was freaking out. And, the doctors, end up telling me that the Vicks Vapor Rub activated a dormant asthma.
Oh, wow.
And the asthma attack, my first one ever and only one I've ever had, almost killed me.
Wow.
And so if I didn't get to the hospital, when I got to the hospital, I would not have made it. But this is what this message does for you. I ended up in that hospital bed debating with the doctors because now I'm this new thought young person, don't even know what it is, but now I have it in my mind.
Right.
The doctor's like, you have asthma. I'm like, no, I don't. You have asthma? No, I don't. Well, you can call it what you want to call it. Well, I'm gonna call it nothing. Yeah, I'm like having these debates. And I have oxygen. I have sensors all over my chest, on my hand, everything.
Right, and you're like, no.
No, I don't. No, I don't. So my mother is pacing back and forth in the room, and I looked at her, and I had the 2 books in my hand, and I said, "Ma, according to these books, I don't have to have this if I don't want it." And that was the beginning of my journey. So I stayed in the hospital. That was early Sunday morning. Got there really early, like 2, 3 in the morning. I didn't leave until Wednesday evening. When I don't know anybody that stays in the hospital that long, but that shows you the severity of it.
Yeah.
And they let me out early.
Wow.
And so they sent me home with pills that were really thick and long and 2 inhalers.
Wow.
And I had to stay home for about 2 weeks. And about a week, almost 2 weeks, 2.5. I'm trying to remember the exact dates, but it was a while. And the first place I went to when I got well enough, my first day out, was the day my class started.
Wow.
And so I went to the bookstore and I bought every book that I had money to buy. I bought every book, a stack of like 12 books. And I remember the teacher, she just passed away last September, Reverend Wametta Harrell. She said Harold. I called her Harrell. It's technically Harold. And I remember her saying, "You gonna read all those books?" I said, "Of course, yes." She didn't know anything about the story. And when it came back the next week, she said, "What happened to all those books?" I said, "I read them all."
Wow.
And it wasn't because I was trying to be smart. It was because I believed what Johnny and those books were saying, Johnny Coleman, that if I can understand this, I can get this up off of me.
Yes.
So to make a long story short, by the, by the early spring, when I'm doing my last checkup, late spring, early summer time, when I'm doing my last checkups with the doctor, and he's saying, well, you still got to keep these inhalers, you still have to keep the medicine, but even though you have no signs now and no symptoms, everything is coming back right. This is your new norm. Watch how you playing sports now, and watch when you're doing this, and you keep this inhaler with you all the time. And this is the emergency inhaler just in case this one doesn't work.
Right.
And I used to then tell this story because people only hear this part of the story and they don't realize that for months, all I was doing was studying, praying, meditating, visualizing, affirming on 3x5 cards, everything you can think of to shift my paradigm.
Yes.
But at that point, when I came back home from the doctor's office after he told me that this was my new normal, even though I didn't have any symptoms.
Yeah.
I prayed about it and I went to my mother. Now I'm shifting almost into age 21. And I look at that now because my daughter's 19 and she'll be 20 this year. And I realize, oh my God, I probably went off. But I told my mother, I'm going to prove that this truth works or I'm not going to be here. And I threw the pills in the inhalers in the garbage.
Good for you. Yeah.
And that was 1993.
Right. So you just outright rejected that. Like you said no. You said no.
Yeah. Yes, but it wasn't just a rejection. It was also an acceptance as well. It was a rejection of the experience. It was an acceptance that there was something higher in me that I believe healed my body already.
Yes.
Now, and I say that now as a father.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I wonder how I would handle that. And I realize now, and it didn't dawn on me until my mother made her transition. My mother passed away in 2010.
Oh, okay.
And I never thanked her for not pushing back. I was so in my own space.
Yeah.
That didn't dawn on me that I'm her baby.
Right. Because your own child, your new thought now, but at that time, you might have been like, no, you have to take this. Oh gosh, don't do that. Because you rely heavily on what the doctor said, and wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so that's a regret. I wish I would have said, Mom, I never realized what I put you through.
Right.
Because I see her son.
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna do this, or I'm not gonna be here.
Right.
And you're not even 21 years old. Yeah, that's kind of hardcore. So I'm grateful for that stance because one of the things that it did was because I didn't get the emotional pushback from her. I didn't get it from my grandmother or my siblings. Everybody that knew me was like, okay, something's different. He has to do this. But your mom is a different animal, dad, mom, grandmother.
I'm a mother, so I know. I'm a mother.
So what I will say is this. No one can tell me the message of New Thought doesn't work. Nobody.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the beauty of the message to me. Because when people say, well, what about this? What about that? Look, I haven't had an asthma attack since that one time in 1993.
Amazing. Yeah.
And I went right back to playing basketball. I'm a Kung Fu practitioner. I do any athletic thing I want to do up to this age currently. Because if I can't do it, it's because I'm out of shape.
Testimony to New Thought.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. So for me, that's my story. And again, I used to then tell the story. Yeah. Because people only hear he threw his medicine away. You can't fake that type of content.
Right. It's so much more. It was so much more work. It was so much more in your consciousness. It's not just that, like you said, it's not as simple as, oh, I reject that. I mean, that's hard to reject when you have doctors and people telling you. That's hard to reject. It's difficult to reject. But you did it, not just reject. I think that your point was was just very good as far as it's rejection, but it's also acceptance of health, or acceptance of, no, I'm fine. No, I'm going to be able to do this. No, like, so it's not just like, so that's amazing. It's an amazing story. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I share it now only because I think it can help people. At the time, when I was younger, I didn't want to share it because I didn't want people to hear the part that they wanted to focus on. But now I believe
like
that
it might sound trite or something, right?
Right. Or easy.
Right. It's not easy.
Right. And and what I try to get across to people is New Thought became my obsession.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, okay, it was, I'm getting this. I'm understanding it. No matter what. So when people say, okay, I'm serious. Okay, what does serious look like to you? Because let me tell you what serious looked like to me when I was trying to really understand it.
Yes.
That might have been 3 to 5 books being read a week.
Right.
That was, the cassettes back then in the car.
Right.
All day.
Yeah, like Tony Robbins or something. Nothing wrong with that, but it's not just listening to tape or whatever.
Right. It was every day.
The work. Right.
Every day, no matter what. It was hanging out in the church bookstore when I didn't have enough money, and would read entire books.
Wow.
In the bookstore.
Yeah.
When I ran out of money.
Yeah.
It was that serious.
You had to do. That is so amazing and inspiring. And in fact, that brings us into the sort of the next thing that I want to discuss, which is why this is exactly why you're speaking at the Interworld Congress in Nashville and other things. You do many other things, but so can you just tell the viewers about what you will be speaking about, or even why it's important for people to kind of check it out? And plus, it's in Nashville. It's in Nashville.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. So when they asked me to speak at the International New Thought Alliances, I don't forget what Congress this is, but it's 100 and something. When Larry called me, Reverend Larry, who's the president of the board.
Yes.
I said, okay, I'm going to do it. I hadn't been to the International New Thought Alliance's Congress in a while.
Yeah.
And what I wanted, when I thought about what I wanted to teach, it came to me. It's been my message throughout my ministry, which is the power of the New Thought message. That's the name of my message.
Yeah.
And the reason why I think it's important that I come and I present the power of the New Thought message is because I'm of the belief, and this is my belief, I'm not putting this off on any other New Thought minister, teacher, or practitioner, but I'm of the belief that New Thought, without the desired demonstration of the law, because we always are demonstrating, without the desired demonstration of the law, in other words, the ability to apply and practically manifest what we teach in people's day-to-day lives. Without that power, New Thought is just another progressive liberal movement without teeth. Now, that can be great. We sit together, we hold hands, we love everybody, we accept everybody. Right. That's great. I believe in all those things.
Right.
I believe that we're a big enough tent to welcome everybody in and have room.
Right.
That being said, I also believe that what attracted me to this message and what attracted so many other people is the ability to change your life radically for the better through the application of the principles espoused by New Thought. So I believe there's a power in the message. I think people are dealing with things in their life, experiences, situations, whether it's health, whether it's relationship, whether it's money, career success, family things, etc., where they feel many times disempowered, where they feel is devalued and underappreciated,
and helpless, almost.
Right, exactly.
Control.
Resigned to the way things are. And what I'm saying is, I believe New Thought gives people the ability, not New Thought, but New Thought informs people about their ability to be a transformation agent in their own lives. How? But first of all, this is why I wrote the Hardcore Metaphysics article in the Science of Mind magazine, which is in January and February for anybody that's looking 2019.
Yes.
It's a 2-part series.
I know.
And thank you.
Yeah, here it is, guys. Yeah.
That's the February. Yeah.
Great article.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's called hardcore metaphysics.
Right.
Exactly what you're talking about.
Yes, and the reason why I believe that hardcore metaphysics message needs to get out is because when a person has a new understanding about God outside of the big man upstairs, and outside of their religious constructs, but more as an infinite, invisible energy, intelligence, and presence that we call spirit or God. And when you recognize that you're made out of that unlimited energy, infinite intelligence that we call spirit, then we have a different process. Because I'm a big believer that, especially from a Christian background, that we feel as though that to promote Jesus, you got to demote yourself. I say, no, that's backwards. Right. You don't have to demote yourself to promote Jesus. Jesus is awesome all by himself, but so are you. Right. And you don't have to devalue yourself to uplift any religious figure, including your concept of God. So in the January edition,
we're all equal under the law.
Yeah,
right?
Not only are we all equal under spiritual law, I would say we're all equal in the context of creation and creative capacity.
Yes, exactly.
So the law in and of itself sees us equal, but as Emmett Fox would say, Christ is Lord over karma, which in a sense means the moment I realize who I am spiritually, I can transcend the previous level of demonstration through universal law. So it's important for people to recognize who they are spiritually. And also to recognize that their concept of God is not God. I wrote that in the January edition of the Hardcore Metaphysics, that just like your thought of your mother is not your mother. She exists independent of your thought. Exactly. And the same is true about God. We don't so much worship or follow God as much as our concept. God transcends our concept.
Right. Our concept can't contain it or whatever. That's just our concept. Right. Exactly. And you actually wrote in the second part of the article that you believe that the divinity of mankind, which is exactly the mankind, we're all equal, created equal, we're absolutely is the most important concept. And I felt your passion about that in the article, and that stood out for me so much, which is that we are divine. The divinity, you actually said the divinity of mankind is the most important concept.
I believe it. I believe it wholeheartedly, because I can, even if I'm in New Thought and I focus on the omnis that we're taught, I'm not presence, omnipotence, omniscience. That's all great. That's hooray God. And I focus on the value and power of thought. Change my thinking, change my life is, one of our sayings or versions of it. Yes. And I can focus on the principles of prayer and affirmative prayer as we teach it in New Thought, and meditation, etc. And I can focus on, God is universal law and all of what that means. And, as far as, demonstrating things in my life, and can still have a sense of myself that's less than whole. So, so I can have a belief that little old me has to work through this. I'm not present God, omnipotent God, omniscient God. Little old me has to learn how to figure out how to work my thought so I can be in alignment with this truth. And so I got to have all these practices like prayer and affirmative prayer and meditation. And so I can work this law. Or I can say, I'm an individualized expression of God, and I'm a portable paradise.
Yep.
And because I'm the image and likeness of God, I've been given the creative capacity to create just like God. Now, I know that's an argument with the New Thought.
People get not in New Thought necessarily, but get offended. But that I understand what you are saying. Absolutely, we're an emanation of spirit, and we are creative in that same manner of thought, belief, feeling. Exactly.
Yeah.
Very, very powerful. Yeah,
absolutely.
You're right. A lot of people are like, wait, but that is the heart. That's hardcore, Gaylon.
Yes.
And that's what we mean, right?
Yes. So I'm gonna give an example. So my daughter's a college student. She's a sophomore, studying to become a veterinarian, and you know, people always often ask me, well, you know, how did you talk to your daughter? What did you teach her? You know, because they automatically think, because I read all these books, that my daughter's going to be this automatic, you know, encyclopedia of metaphysics and theology.
Right.
And what I tell them is, well, you know, I had a book that I would have her study over and over again about the basic principles of The Simple Truth by Richard and Mary Alice Jaffola. Mm-hmm. But what I focused on was self-image. Why? Because a person is not going to outperform their consciousness. So I had to decide what's more important, for her to know what Matthew 17:20 is, or was it more important to have her have a healthy self-image,
right,
a sense of wholeness?
Yep.
All right. So, you know, to teach her how to interact and communicate and stay. Now, I'm not saying that it's perfect, and it's still my emphasis that she's 19 years old now.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying it's anything other than she skirted around many things that could have been potential, whatever. When you're in high school these days and college these days with people, your kid is exposed to the world.
Yeah.
Now, what do you want to equip them with when they go into the world? A blind fundamentalism or a healthy self-image? So as Maxwell Maltz talks about in Psycho-Cybernetics, even though it's not a New Thought book, the book talks about how he, as a plastic surgeon, would perform, right, he would perform surgeries on people. He would fix the, you know, not fix, he would adapt the nose, or the cheeks, or the lips, or whatever, and make people look the way they want to look. But on the inside, they still had the same insecurities.
Yes, I heard that. That's incredible, because they would look in the mirror. They actually wouldn't even possibly see the change, but nothing inside changed. The way they looked at themselves, like I'm ugly or whatever, that did not change because of that. That's
correct. It's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
So what a person what New Thought does is it starts from something that is so radical that I don't think even a lot of us in New Thought realize how radical it is.
Yes.
New Thought starts from the radical premise that there's something radically right about you.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, exactly.
I've used radical a lot in that sentence.
Right.
But it starts from the premise.
But you're right, radically right. I love that.
There's something radically right about you. Most religions. We
think there's something radically wrong with us.
Right.
But the truth is, there's something radically right. That is perfect. Yeah.
Thank you. I do a lot of thinking.
Yeah. Okay.
I just sit around thinking about.
Apparently.
Yeah, like, how can I say that differently? How can I say that better? Believe it or not, this is an everyday process for me. I'm always thinking about, what's the essence of this message? What's the essence of this teaching? Yeah. And it was a light bulb moment, because one of the things, and this is how it came, it's kind of funny. I was talking with someone who was studying, and I'm not saying one is better than the other, so let me just start with that premise, that understanding, okay? So I was talking with someone, and we were talking about her study of the 7 chakra system. Mm-hmm. And me being a person that comes out of the unity metaphysics, you know, I'm more of a 12 powers, 12 powers, etc.
Yeah.
And she was saying, well, it's the same thing. And I said, well, no, it's not. And she said, well, why is it not the same thing? And I kept playing with it in my head. I was like, well, it's a different theory, Fillmore's concept, some of the points are the same. So that would add up, but the concept behind it is different. Mm-hmm. And then I said, Fillmore says, start at the crown of your head with your meditation, Christ mind or cosmic awareness or whatever, and send the spiritual energy down. And I said, many of the other systems start at what they would call base or root chakra. We would call that actually the life center. Mm-hmm. And they say start there up. And I said, now what's the difference between that? And I said, from my perspective, Fillmore was saying start with what's right. We're always trying to fix stuff and enlighten and bring it up, instead of starting with what's right. And then engaging the aspects of your consciousness or mind and body that needs to be uplifted, engaging it with truth. So many times we try to, okay, I'm going to bring this up, then I'm going to rise this up, and then I'm going to rise this up. You say, no, start with what's true, which is primarily the principle of New Thought. Start with what's right,
Yes, yes, that
and
we're
then work
whole,
from there.
perfect,
Right.
and complete, right?
Right.
Right.
Correct. So, in the midst of that, I started playing with how I would teach this if I was teaching it. Like, okay, so now I use the analogy when it comes to the 12 powers, which I know you're from science of mind, religious science background, you all don't teach that aspect of new thought. But what I try to tell people is something similar to an iPhone. An iPhone has a baseline program, iOS,
Right.
and it has apps. Now, the iOS has the capacity to handle all of these apps, and all the apps can do different things. But the primary system is iOS. I call the iOS in us the Christ or the I am.
Yeah.
And then we have all these apps, from the 12 powers perspective, faith and love, strength and wisdom and understanding, etc.
Yeah.
So, well, this is what's funny. When I do this analogy, I say, how many people hold up your phones? People hold up their iPhones or their Android phones, etc. And I said, okay, how many people in this room know how to do everything that your phone can do? And nobody raises their hand. How many people know how to primarily just call, text, check your social media, and email? Hands go up. And I said, your phone can do way more than those things. I said, if you did just emails, calls, texts, and social media, and using your web browser, you might be using 25% of your phone's capacity and capabilities.
Right.
It's the same thing with human beings. We have within us this I am, this spiritual nature, that's old school new thought used to call the Christ nature.
Right.
Within us that has the ability or the capacity to create anything and do anything in us. It's unlimited possibilities. It's infinite potentiality. But like our cell phones, we're just calling. Like our cell phones, we're just texting. Or in other words, we're just existing when we were created to be masters.
Yeah, it's true. That is amazing, Gaylon. So this is exactly why everybody's got to come out to Nashville to see you speak.
Yeah, make sure I see you in Nashville, definitely.
I will see you in Nashville. So just before we wrap up, just let everybody know just how they can view the website or the website of your center, and just maybe your next projects or whatever you'd like to share.
Okay, well, quickly, obviously, I'm again the senior assistant minister at Christ Universal Temple.
Yes.
We're actually in some website construction. But it should be back up in about a week. It's up, but it's not fully functional because we're doing fixing it up. And so you can go to cutemple.org, the word temple.org. That's the Christ Universal Temple website, CUT in Chicago. That's not a website, CUT in Chicago. It just means CUT is in Chicago. We also have a digital app that's coming soon, so be on the lookout for CUT Digital, where people can do a lot of other interactions with us. We also I also have Truth Transforms. So if you go to Unity Online Radio or unityonlineradio.org, you look for Truth Transforms, you can find my archive of 7 years plus of podcasts on every subject and new thought you can think of it: healing, prosperity, prayer, meditation, metaphysical Bible interpretation, all type of stuff. Interviews with luminaries in New Thought and the self-help movement. So it's good work, in my opinion. I'm very proud of the catalog.
Yes.
Personally, I'm doing more speaking. I'm going to different churches because I don't have to speak every week at CUT, or most of the time, because the Reverend Dr. Derek B. Wells is the senior minister, and he's speaking at CUT, which gives me the flexibility to go and do other things.
Yeah.
And so I'm popping up at your local centers, and I'm going. I'm about to launch a website, GaylonMcDowell.com. It's actually up, but it's just a homepage right now. Okay. And I'm going to be doing online courses.
Nice.
I'm going to do some coaching. I've been having people for years asking me to coach. I'm like, trying to figure out the time to do that type of stuff. But the demand is there. And I've said, okay, am I playing small because I'm trying to figure out how to make the time work? when there are people who are contacting me who listen to Truth Transforms from several different countries in Africa and from, all over the United States, Canada, Mexico, Caribbean, South America, etc. The world is hungry for this message.
Yes.
So I'm putting together right now some online courses. I'm fleshing it out so I can launch and basically help people practically apply this truth in a way that helps them achieve their goals and dreams. So that's coming down the pipe real soon. Before the end of this first quarter, I should be up and ready for, online courses. Of course, I teach in the Johnny Coleman Institute at Christ Universal Temple. Currently, I'm teaching the Think and Grow Rich course on Napoleon Hill. And I'm trying to think of anything else that I'm doing right now. I actually am the district president for Illinois and Wisconsin for the International New Thought Alliance. But cool. I'm derelict on duty, so I try to tell people that one. But it's just
oh, cool.
So that's pretty much it.
You're out there. That is just amazing. I mean, this conversation was so amazing, and I know that a lot of people are going to be inspired by what you've shared. And, I'll just encourage you to check out whatever you're doing, but certainly come out to Nashville in the summer. It's going to be fun.
Yes. What are the dates again?
It's July 22nd through the 25th, somewhere around there. I'm speaking on the 23rd, which is a Tuesday.
Yeah. I'm speaking on the Thursday.
Tuesday. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it'll be fun. It'll be good to see you and some comrades from around the New Thought world, because we don't always get a chance to get in one space. And what I will say about this before we go, I think it's important to be around collective consciousness. There are going to be times when you might not have the intensity that I had at age 20 to just push. But I realize now that even though I had a high level of intensity, I was also at Christ Universal Temple with several thousand people weekly who were studying the same thing, developing the consciousness or the platform that allowed me to grow.
Supporting you just by being around them and their consciousness, right?
So I was in class, I was showing up on Sunday, I was going to different things. So not only did I have the support to help me make the demonstration, but then I had the support to help me maintain it.
Yes. Important. So important. And that's community, spiritual community. And that's why these events or even the local centers or whatever, that's why it's important. Yes,
absolutely. And so show up.
Yes. Come on out, everyone. Well, thank you so much. And, just have a blessed evening. And I know I'll be seeing you soon. So that's great. Yeah.
Thank you. God bless you. God bless you.